Hello everyone, welcome along to the Blood Red channel. We are live with the debrief after probably one of the worst Liverpool performances under Jurgen Klopp. It's definitely fair to say, as the Reds go 3-1 down to Brentford in London. A dreadful, dreadful evening, but welcome along everyone. I'm Patrick Smith and I'm joined by Liverpool.com editor Matt Addison. Matt, I'm sure we're going to have plenty to get stuck into on this one, but let's just get your general overview to start with, shall we?
Yeah, it was another strange game, wasn't it? I mean, Liverpool were pretty dreadful on Friday against Leicester, and you thought that they couldn't be as bad again, but unfortunately they were. I think it's even more strange because I think the first sort of 5 or 10 minutes they played quite well. Just the rest of that half, as soon as Brentford scored, fell apart, basically, find themselves with far too much to do. And, even if they'd have come back, we'd have still been sat here with worries and concerns about certain things. I'm sure we'll touch on the midfield. I'm sure we'll touch on, Harvey Elliott and various other players. I thought Naby Keita made a big difference in the second half, but ultimately, we've said it so many times this season, you can't just keep conceding goals, going a goal behind and just hoping that you can find a way back. Brentford have been ahead in previous games. Tottenham came from 2 down to draw with them, within the last week or so. There's been enough examples really of teams being able to get at Brentford. And I know it's a tough place to go. I think only Arsenal have won there at Brentford this season. It's not an easy game, but Liverpool just didn't perform. It's the kind of match that, Liverpool should be able to go there and put in a bit of a statement, really, and perform really well, bounce back from what they did on Friday. And unfortunately, we're just sat here talking about the same issues, the midfield being the biggest one. I can't understand the stance of, they don't need a midfielder. I think everybody has seen it, particularly in the last 2 games all season, but particularly the last 2 games. They've just looked an absolute mile off it. Like I said, Naby Keita was good, but you can't rely on him. So many of the usual issues, it's hard to know where to start, really. So, Cody Gakpo is a good start for January. The quicker he can come in, the better. But without another midfielder, they're just going to continue to be this inconsistent. And if they don't start to do something fairly quickly, the top 4 is going to be out of reach. The only reason it's not out of reach is because Chelsea and Tottenham keep slipping up as well. But at some point, someone is going to go on a run, and it really, really needs to be Liverpool.
Just going to say quickly, everyone, keep your comments coming. We'll definitely get to those soon enough, so make sure you're dropping those in the comments below. But Matt, that last point you made there, I mean, yes, Chelsea and Tottenham drop points, so it doesn't feel that bad. But it's just such a missed opportunity, isn't it, to gain ground on the top 4? Because it has been a very poor season for Liverpool. But a win today, which I think was achievable. I mean, Brentford didn't have to really do anything special. I mean, Brentford away, you're going to go there, get bullied. You're not going to win the first ball, but it's the second ball. And Liverpool just seem to be shirking so many tackles, in the words of Neil Warnock. And they just, I know it's cliche and you shouldn't say this about professional sportsmen, but they didn't seem up for the fight, did they, Matt? I mean, particularly midfield, I think we're missing that real fight that is so typical of a Jurgen Klopp side. We should be up for a physical battle with Brentford. I think the Liverpool side of maybe 2018, 2019, I don't think they'd be going to Brentford and be getting bullied as easily as they were today.
No, and even players that you'd think would be, in the team for that exact reason. You think of Conte coming straight back in. I'm pretty sure that was with Brentford, probably with Ivan Toney, even though he didn't play. I mean, goodness knows how many goals it would have been if he had have played. But, someone like him to come into this team purely for that reason, really. We saw Joel Matip last season in this fixture really struggle with the aerial battles. Obviously didn't start here, but he was just dreadful, really. The entire defence, the set pieces, Liverpool have not been too bad at defending set pieces generally, but they just looked a little bit weak. It was... there's been worse performances under Jurgen Klopp. There's been worse games, but it's just one of those that really frustrates you because it's so obvious. Everyone knows that the minimum you have to do when you go to Brentford is match the intensity and match the kind of desire, and that's what Liverpool have been built on, and they just did not do that at all. It's very, very, very strange that they didn't seem to get themselves up for it. The excuse really of tiredness and fatigue is not there anymore. They've had the World Cup, they've had the trip away to Dubai mid-season. I know some of the players obviously weren't there, and some have gone away, and some have been injured in that time, and all the rest of it. But it doesn't particularly look like much has changed really off the back of that. I think the Villa result on Boxing Day was a good one. They played well there, but the 2 matches since have been really, really concerning. And they just don't look like a top 4 team at the moment. Something is going to have to change, but some of the explanations or the excuses that we've used in the first half of the season, they're just not there anymore. It's got to be a case of the players that they need a bit of a refresh. They need something different. And the midfield is the obvious place to look. But like I say, the defence, even the forward line was okay at certain points. I think Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain did okay. Darwin Núñez did okay, but should score. Mohamed Salah was not particularly lively or whatever, but it does all come back to the midfield. For me, they've got to get somebody in before the end of this month. Otherwise, they're just giving themselves a lot to do. It's not impossible to get into the top four without that. Maybe they could get lucky with a couple of injuries. Maybe, but not for sure. And I just don't know really what more you can say about it other than they need different players in there. They need somebody that they can rely on in the centre of the pitch because, even someone like Thiago, everyone was saying how good he was on Friday night, but even he gave the ball away a couple of times in dangerous areas. Similar again today, a bad tackle gets him a yellow card. Harvey Elliott was on a booking but didn't particularly do much defensively as well. It's just so painfully obvious to everyone that they need a midfielder that it would surprise me almost if they didn't do that purely on that basis, because you just think surely they can't go to the end of this month and think that what they've got is enough to get what they need from this season.
I mean, it's specifics they need in the midfield as well, because this isn't the first match that they've been bullied and outbeaten every single physical statistic across the midfield. There's been numerous games this season where they've been out-battled, outran, out-jumped, and it's something that's made more evident than anything by playing Brentford. That's what you're going to get. But one of the main problems for me, Matt, is the sort of lack of creativity in midfield. I mean, you look at Fabinho, he's had a very poor season. On the ball today, he was dreadful. I mean, the chances Liverpool made today were pretty much lugging through long balls onto Darwin Núñez, hoping he can get on the end of them, or sending Robertson down the line or Trent and hoping to win a corner. I mean, that lack of creativity and diversity in creating chances. I mean, you look at the chances City and other top sides create, and the chances Liverpool previously did create over the past 4 or 5 years. They're not making those same chances in the final third, are they, Matt? I mean, it's all sort of hit and hope at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it was all a little bit strange, wasn't it? I think that's again, the midfield is part of that issue. I know, obviously, Harvey Elliott is there to be that kind of player and to be creative, but I don't think it's really fair to say that he's doing that at the moment. I don't think, you kind of, similar to Trent, really. I think in the first half of this season, you'd look at someone like Trent and say, well, okay, he's got certain limitations defensively. We're aware of those. They're exaggerated by plenty of people, but they are, to some extent, they are there, but you kind of put up with them because the quality that he's got. And I think that was his first assist in the Premier League this season today when he puts the ball in for Oxlade-Chamberlain. So he hasn't been at it. But Harvey Elliott as well, I think, is possibly just at this moment in his career. And, it's no slight on him given the age that he is. And the rest of the team isn't particularly performing in a way which would be conducive really to him putting his best performances together. But I just don't think that they're offering enough at the moment to be able to justify putting them in at the expense of goals being conceded. I think, if you've got Harvey Elliott in the team and he's creating loads of chances and he's kind of dominating games in that way, but he lets in a couple going the other way, then you can kind of be okay with that and just take the justification of he'll create more than he'll concede. But at the moment, it's just not really working. The balance of the midfield isn't there. Having said that, I don't know who you bring in. I think Naby Keita was excellent, but again, the third goal comes from him giving the ball away in a silly position. So there's no obvious answer at the moment, and I don't want to pin it on Harvey Elliott at all. I think that would be completely unfair on him. He shouldn't be playing as much as what he is at the age that he is. Just the situation Liverpool are in means that they have to keep playing him in there. Obviously, Jordan Henderson was missing today, so he couldn't play, but he was really, really poor on Friday night. So there's no easy solution to this, but I just think they do need to be a little bit more solid in there because they've tried to be more expansive. They've tried to do something that's a little bit bolder, and it just hasn't quite worked. And I think from this point onwards, they're going to have to just do something slightly different because if they carry on like this, they're not going to get the results that they need. There's a couple of big games coming up. You think of Brighton away next, I think in the Premier League, that's a really tough one. Then Chelsea at home, that's one that you think could almost be a 6-pointer really in the top four race. I think there's possibly an argument that the games like that could suit Liverpool a little bit more, but it's really difficult to know where they go next because it's all right people having to go at Harvey Elliott, and I don't want to come across as me joining in with that, but I just think I don't know who else you could turn to really. I think it's one of those where they just don't have the bodies. Again, it comes back to that transfer need. They've just got to do something in January.
Yeah. I mean, Liverpool and any side who is serious about top four aspirations in the Premier League shouldn't be playing a 19, 20-year-old because they have no other choice. I mean, and that's what Liverpool have done this season. I'm reluctant myself to dig out individual players, and I don't really want to go down that line. But, I mean, I think it's not necessarily something else. I think it's someone else that Liverpool need now, and it's just so unbelievably, glaringly obvious. And if they don't sign anyone in January, then there's going to be a massive backlash from the fans, I think. And come May, when the likelihood is Liverpool won't be in the top four if they don't sign at least one midfield. I mean, at least two midfielders, in my opinion. They need a big physical player and someone who can actually create something different that's not just through balls and lugging it wide down the channels, because that's really getting frustrating to watch. I mean, Matt, are there any positives that Liverpool can take from tonight? There were a couple of decent displays, maybe Oxlade-Chamberlain and Andy Robertson when he came on sort of changed things for the first 20 minutes of the second half. There's a couple of positives to take, I suppose, aren't there?
Yeah, I thought Andy Robertson was definitely very good. I think Naby Keita, apart from giving away the ball in a stupid position, was pretty good for most of it. I actually would have started with Keita tonight. I think it's the kind of game really that midfield just needed someone to be able to just put the foot on the ball and just keep it for a few passes. I think far too often Liverpool have given it away in daft areas, and I know it's a bit contradictory because the third goal does come from him doing exactly that. But I thought up to that point he'd really helped Liverpool change the game. And obviously, you can't rely on him. That's the biggest issue, isn't it, really, that you can't rely on him to do that for the rest of this season. So it's not exactly a solution long term. He's out of contract in the summer as well. But I do think that was possibly one that I would have done today and put him in from the start. And yeah, other than that, there's not too many. I mean, the Telegraph reporting today that Matheus Nunes could be back on Liverpool's radar. Something like that could be interesting. But again, he's one of those that you'd think, A, they should have done it in the summer, and B, he's not been particularly brilliant for Wolves. I don't think I've seen anything that would say, yeah, put him in and he'll be completely transformational to Liverpool's midfield. But they've just got to get another body in there. I think, it's all well and good sitting here and saying, well, Naby Keita was good with certain caveats, but yeah, you just can't rely on that. I think, again, similar to Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, pretty good, but is he going to play on the left-hand side consistently? I think that's the third start he's made in a row. I think it's the first time he's done that in about 3 years. Will he do that again for Liverpool? I'd be surprised. Cody Gakpo is going to come in and play pretty much straight away, I would have thought, in that position. Is he a positive? Yeah, he played quite well, but, he's not. Again, he's not a transformational player. He's not someone that you say, well, he scored and he's done well today, therefore he stays in the team now for a period of time. I think possibly he plays Wolves next weekend, but I'd be surprised if he played against Brighton. So, yeah, there are a couple of positives. There are a couple of signs that possibly things could change if certain players start to do certain things. But it's one of those really where the positives are quite small on a day like this, and quite a lot has got to change really for Liverpool to properly be in a position where they can cement themselves in the top four. They're just giving themselves far too much to do, and I think it started in the summer, but to not, to go and get Artur on an emergency loan, then not be able to play him, and then not do something in January, it doesn't quite add up to me. So no. I've still got hope. I've still got hope that they'll do something in January, whether it's Matheus Nunes or someone else. But if they don't, they're really going to struggle to get into that top four.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you look at it, they paid, $5 million, I think it was revealed the other day, for the loan fee for Artur. Matheus Nunes cost Wolves, I think it was £30 million. Benfica got Enzo Fernandez for around 15. Granted, it can rise to a much larger sum, but it was just glaringly obvious in the summer. And if they don't do anything in January, as I've said previously, it'll honestly baffle me. And I think the season's gone at the end of January if they don't sign anyone. But we're going to leave it there. Matt, Addison, thank you very much for joining me. And of course, thank you to all of you for watching and giving us your comments in the comment section below. Be sure to stick around right here on the Blood Red channel, because like me and Matt, I'm sure you're eagerly awaiting the words of Jurgen Klopp. So we'll bring you his press conference as soon as we have it. So make sure you're subscribed and liked right here on the Blood Red YouTube channel. But for myself, Patrick Smith, and Matt Addison, thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you again soon on the Debrief.